All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking through some of the emerging ad platforms in paid media, focusing on apps, gaming, and esports. And we're going to try to move through the information fairly quickly just for the sake of time. If you have questions, feel free to add them in the chat in the Zoom meeting, and we will cover those at the end as time allows. So to start with, we're going to talk through the top 3 emerging platforms in 2021, and then we'll do an overview of each platform and what they look like and how they work. And then we'll talk through some creative examples and targeting options for each platform, talk through the key benefits, and then where to buy these ads or access the ad space, and then the Q&A at the end as time allows. So to start off, the big 3 emerging platforms in 2021 are apps, which allow in-app advertising during mid-game or mid-activity, and typically it's in the free version of an app. These are the ones that pop up as you're in the middle of the app. They're somewhat disruptive, but they're noticeable and people take notice. And then for gaming, during a gaming experience, oftentimes games are interrupted by an ad when you're playing on a mobile device. Some gaming experience, however, have started finding a way to work the ad content into the game so that the brand names are showing in the background or integrated into the game as part of the gameplay, so they're not as disruptive. And it's a great way to get your brand in front of people without having that negative connotation of the ad being disruptive. And for esports, this is kind of in its own realm of advertising. There's so many different ways to integrate, and the nature of the platform is just so much more advanced. There's several ways to integrate your brand name into the game as a billboard or on player jerseys on the field or court. And some brands have also started advertising with esports brands as a partnership to help promote both brands. And we'll get into more detail on all of that as we move forward. So talking through app advertising, this can take a few different forms. There's advertising in the app, advertising the app within different app stores to promote the app and to prompt people to download or purchase your app and encourage in-app purchases. There's also advertising within apps to promote a product or service offered, using display advertising to target mobile app placements so that ads are shown when someone is using an app on their phone. And the display advertising targeting on mobile app placements is best for awareness and reach. Sometimes it's great to get your brand out there in front of a large group of people quickly. It doesn't typically tend to be the best for garnering a ton of relevant clicks or driving any kind of lead generation efforts.
I'd also like to add definitely a specific focus within app advertising is the ability to control what specific apps or app categories your actual ads display on. So your placement settings in those apps. And this is entirely controlled through whatever ad network you're working through, whether it's Google ads, Bing ads, or through like a programmatic advertising vendor. So best practices are definitely around selectively choosing what type of apps you'd like your ads to run in, and then also actively monitoring what apps are receiving impressions and what app categories are receiving impressions. You can obviously see performance across what specific apps your ads are running on, but then also in app categories. And you can create exclusions lists and inclusions lists either at the specific app level or at the app category level.
Cool. Thanks, Riley, for adding that. So to give an overview of the gaming advertising, with online and app gaming, it's become super prominent in the last few years. Definitely an audience that was kind of untapped previously. And you can't play a game on your phone these days without getting an ad popping up in some capacity within the app. And there's a few different ways that companies are doing this. So in-game ads are different than typical in-app ads. And they, as I mentioned before, there's a way to integrate them seamlessly within the ad experience, the app experience, to ensure that your brand is seen without being disruptive. It provides a better overall user experience, and having a better experience will more likely lead to better brand recall and potential for conversion in the future. And many games, especially on mobile devices, are also apps. And so that the distinction of the two can be kind of confusing. And there's an article provided here, and we will send out the slide deck afterwards so you can take a look at that. And it gives a very clear picture of the main differences between the two, how to use each, and when, and the best ways to use it to benefit your brand. And then for eSports, it's one of the biggest and most popular platforms for gaming in the current climate. A huge opportunity for brands to integrate their brand into the game. There are a few ways that this has been done successfully. Again, as I mentioned before, having a billboard or sign within the game. So if it's like a basketball arena, having a on the jumbotron that's shown as part of the arena, having your brand name show up on there, or having your logo on the floor or on the field of a game, the brand name as the sponsor on a team jersey, and then also having your brand mentioned verbally within the context of the game. If you can build a partnership with that gaming company, and they can, during the breaks in the game, within that experience, they can mention your name verbally and promote your brand as well. There's so many more options as well, but these are the main ways that brands have been using this successfully. And there are some brands who have been teaming up with esports companies to create ads that show how their brand, product, or service can be a part of the esports world and how they can work together. And it's become kind of an interest, especially in today's climate with everything being so virtual. There's so many different ways that companies can do this. There was one where it was talking about how it was esports and a mental health company, and the example of how esports can be have a positive effect on mental health. And the two brands came together and made an ad to promote both products in a successful format. And then as far as targeting options, typically they are the demographic targeting is between the age ranges of 15 and 36, mostly the Gen Z and millennial age ranges. And these are typically the people who are playing the games and more involved in these experiences. Behavioral targeting, gaming, or sports interests are the most obvious behavioral targets. There are other outlier options that may fit in there as well. If you wanted to target people who watch specific TV channels that might be interested in sports and gaming, things like that. And then retargeting, showing the ads to anyone who has clicked on your ad or visited your website, but not taken action or has completed a specific action, but getting in front of them with a new offering is important. And then geo-targeting within the platforms will typically be a specific set of locations or a countrywide target, depending on the goal of your campaigns and where you want to promote it. And then device targeting, you can keep your ads on specific devices. So mobile, and you can do Android versus Apple or both. You can do it on desktop, gaming consoles, specific gaming consoles, etc.
Yeah, and the only thing I will add to this is that your targeting options are going to be very dependent on what ad platform or what ad network you're working within. So things like if you're working within Google Ads and Bing Ads, this layout of kind of your different targeting criteria applies pretty much one-to-one. But then when you start getting into, if you're buying advertising inventory programmatically, you typically have some other options available, things like geofencing and some more contextual targeting, in addition to the demographic and behavioral targeting options. And then for any type of like esports ad partnership, typically There might be some, demographic and behavioral or geo-targeting available, but if you have a direct relationship with that esports either channel or platform, so like Twitch or YouTube TV, they might be able to offer some demographic and behavioral targeting at a pretty large scale. But if you're working at the channel level or like at basically the influencer level, then at that point, you're basically just doing a sponsorship.
Yeah, that's definitely some good call outs there. Thank you. And then moving over to some creative options. So I'm using it to do advertising in the esports world. Using a trending topic or a topic that resonates with a large audience is important and will grab the user attention. So as I mentioned before, this first example is a gaming and a therapy company and how they work together and create a positive experience that is good for the person's mental health. And then there's also the option of teaming up with potentially a celebrity or famous athlete to promote your brand or product. It'll help with recall, associate a well-known name with your brand, and people are more likely to pay attention or click on the ad, watch the ad to length if there's a person that they recognize within the ad. And then also some options here just to kind of show some examples of the different ways to integrate into the gaming platforms. So these ads show a few examples of how brands are integrating their products into the esports experience using billboards or on-field advertising. So as you can see in the top example is your ad here. So you could have your brand name showing across that field wall on the soccer stadium. And then on the below one, there's some different signs throughout the stadium that have the branded logos and imagery on them. And it's a great way to get your brand in front of as many people as possible while not being disruptive during the experience. And then, as I mentioned before, there's in these options as well. So on the back or the front of these jerseys or directly on the field, sometimes you'll see the advertising as well. And then in the in-game experience, these are some examples of how brands have integrated themselves into the gaming experiences in a way of not being disruptive. So as you can see in the top one, there's a billboard on the side of a building for advertising for M&Ms, and it just puts your brand out there, super noticeable and likely to be remembered, but still a positive experience with the ad. And then in the bottom one is it's a game of Mario. Brands are showing in the background. They're integrated right into the game. And it's a really positive user experience. And it appeals to all the different potential audiences that could be playing that game. And then for app ads, there's a few different ways to advertise. So advertising within app to promote a product or service, generally a video or image that comes up after an action is completed within the app, or as an option within the app to get something for free by watching an ad, those types of things. And it is disruptive to the game and may not provide the best user experience, but it's kind of an ad format that's unavoidable. And so will definitely be noticeable and catch people's attention, even if it is slightly disruptive. And then there's also the option of using display advertising to target mobile app placements. So this is when your ad will show as someone is using an app on their phone, such as a social media app or a game app or any other type of app out there. And they're rarely clicked on, but are useful for brand awareness and campaigns to get your brand out there. If people see it popping up more often, they're more likely to search for it or click it on an ad if they see it in the future. And then some of the key benefits to these types of advertising platforms is you're reaching a previously untapped audience. With more and more people using online gaming, esports, and app platforms, these audiences are becoming one of the biggest and most valuable audiences out there due to the age, interest, and propensity to buy. There's more and more evidence coming out that people are going to continue to be online more often, buy online more often. And so getting your brand out there in as many places as possible in the digital world is only going to benefit the overall brand recognition and awareness. And then all of the ad platforms are great for brand awareness. It'll drive an unprecedented amount of brand awareness because you're getting out there to so many new people. And it's in a way that's not disruptive, but memorable. And people will recall seeing your ad and be more likely to click in the future. And the cost of these is fairly low typically. And when done in app or in game, they're fairly inexpensive compared to producing a commercial or an immersive experience, but they reach the same audience in an effective way, providing a much better overall return on ad spend. And a lot of these ads can be run through a programmatic experience or through a typical ad platform. You can run app ads, especially the in mobile app experience through Google or other ad platforms, and then also working with a programmatic vendor who can get your ad out there on a much larger scale as well. And then there's a much larger reach due to the age range of the audiences. There's just the reach potential is unprecedented. The audience tends to trend a little bit younger, and it may be an audience that isn't necessarily online browsing the web, but they are gaming, spending their time in apps. And so it's a great way to get in front of those younger people who may not necessarily be, browsing websites across the internet, but are definitely online using the apps, using the gaming consoles, and we'll see your ad in different ways. And it's sometimes there's age restrictions for ads to show within certain ad platforms. So this way, it just isn't another opportunity to reach those ages of users without having to do anything super extensive to get to those ages. And how do you access and purchase these ad placements? So for app ads, they can be run through Google Ads in the app and Google Play stores to promote your app, as well as using the Google Display Network, as mentioned, to show the ads specifically within those mobile app placements. For gaming ads, the types of ads are typically run through Google Ads, similarly to how you would with an app ad. And if they're the ad type that pops up mid-game or as an incentive to purchase something, it's just a matter of choosing the app placements that you want to show in to make sure that you're targeting the right people. And then getting ad space directly within the game would require working specifically with a programmatic ad vendor who has the ability to run those blended in-game ads to show on the side of a building or on a car if it's a race car type game, or in the Mario example, how it was just in the background as part of the overall gaming experience. And then for eSports, the ads can be done programmatically, similar to the gaming ads. And especially if the game is a live online game or hosted through a live platform, if the game is not live, it would require more directly working with the eSports company to get a placement within their game, or as a partnership to create an ad of how the game and product work together, as I mentioned with those examples of the therapy company working with the eSports company to kind of promote both of their brands together.
And to add a little bit more detail on purchasing esports ads, typically like what Kari mentioned would be through a programmatic ad platform that works directly with the esports platforms. So that would be companies, like Twitch or like YouTube Live, but then also programmatically through any type of other streaming platform that is common in the esports community. And typically these ad units would be like mid-roll video units. So, within the actual broadcast of the live game being played, or it would be companion display ads that would appear on the platform, but outside of the actual screen. There's obviously pros and cons to both. And the esports mid-roll video ads have become quite a premium ad space due to their really rising popularity amongst that younger demographic, and the average view count has really skyrocketed in the past 5 years, and which has allowed companies like Twitch and YouTube Live to really increase those ad rates that have become very attractive to advertisers looking to reach that young market.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely an untapped audience up until recently. So, and then I don't know if we had any questions coming in. Riley, did you see any questions come in on your side in the chat? Okay, I'll leave it open for questions for a few minutes. Otherwise, thank you for joining us today. And it looks like we're within our time frame. So feel free to ask any questions and we can go back. Otherwise, we will send out the slide deck and the recording after the webinar is finished.
I have a couple questions for you guys.
Yep.
So my name's Dakota, and I'm going to be graduating from Oregon Tech in June with my degree in management and marketing. I'm really kind of interested in going into this industry. Do you guys have any recommendations for just how to get my foot in the door somewhere, or any type of certifications that would be beneficial to kind of boost my resume?
Yeah, for sure. I would recommend starting out, getting yourself familiar with kind of the basic ad platforms, probably starting with Facebook ads and or Google ads. And both of those, I know Google offers some free certification services around there. And I believe once you get certified, that lasts for a whole 12 months. And there's certifications around all sorts of different types of Google ads. So there's like video ads, search ads, display ads, shopping ads as well. Facebook's a little bit easier in my experience to kind of learn the ropes quickly. But I think, even if you're not working with any clients or running any campaigns directly, those platforms are free to sign up for. And you can basically, have pretty much full access to all the features, even if you're not actually actively running campaigns. Aside from that, I would say that there's a lot of, really beneficial instructional videos on YouTube, as well as some different influencers almost that are in this space that talk a lot about upcoming features on platforms, any changes, kind of best practices around managing campaigns, or any type of new campaign types that are rolling out. I know the big thing I know Kari and I have dealt with in the past several months is Facebook, with the new Apple iOS 14 update, has kind of caused Facebook to pivot their entire ad platform away from their standard pixels, which is how they track website conversions typically. So that has been kind of a big both thorn in our side and a learning experience over the past several months, kind of adapting to Facebook's changes. So I would say start off with Google Ads certifications, and those also come along with a lot of instructional material, articles, as well as instructional videos, and then they have quizzes and tests involved as well. I think that's a great place to kind of get your foot in the door. It also looks really good on a resume, showing that you're, have an active Google Ads certification.
Yeah, I agree. I think having the specific platform certifications for as many as possible. I think there may be a couple for, there's several different ones for Google. There's search ads, display ads, so all the different type of ads. Getting as many of those as you can. There may be a Bing certification or Microsoft Ads certification out there now as well. So anything you can do for any of those specific platforms. And then I think another one that's super beneficial is getting the analytics Google Analytics certification as well. Yep. Familiarizing yourself with that platform and how it integrates with Google Ads, because it's definitely a great way to bring in different types of goal tracking and things like that. So just learning how those two platforms work together, I think, is important as well.
Yeah, and beyond that, I would say, we both, Kari and I, we obviously work at an advertising agency, so we're, deep into these platforms on a day in and day out basis. But there's a lot of positions out there and a lot of other companies out there that might not be, digital media or digital advertising is not necessarily the core of their business, but they still rely upon it heavily. Things like, the publishing industry or e-commerce industry, or really any brick and mortar retail location that's also is selling online or promoting their business online. That's kind of how, from my personal experience, that's kind of how I got my foot in the door, was into actually on the publishing side of things. So working with some news companies and some magazine companies. and running promoting their brands through digital advertising across platforms, but then also after kind of learning the ropes doing that, starting to actually manage their clients' advertising campaigns, even though my previous experience was not necessarily the companies I worked for, their bread and butter was not digital advertising, but it was becoming a much more core component of their advertising services. So whether they offered print advertising or like TV advertising or radio advertising, most all of those companies in those industries also will dabble a bit in digital advertising in some capacity, whether that's Google ads or running through programmatic advertising as well.
Okay, well, thank you. And then I just had one more question. I noticed on your website that you guys are hiring a media specialist right now. Do you have anyone that you can kind of guide me to kind of learn more about that job? And
Yeah, I think they actually just hired someone for that position.
But I'm sure they're still looking.
Yeah, we are always hiring people. They even sometimes will do like a paid internship type position. And there should be just a contact us form on the website, or there's also a phone number. You can also email, I don't know, you could email Riley or I directly, or email the AdWords at anvilmediainc.com email address, and then we can forward your information on to the appropriate people as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been great. You got a lot of good information here. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
All right. You guys have a nice day.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you. All right, Kari, I think that wraps it up.
I think so too. All right, I will stop the recording and log out.
Good deal. Thanks again.
All right, thanks. Bye.